is about homelessness. They asked, hey, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, that was his main issue when he became governor. He said it was a homelessness epidemic. He had a homelessness epidemic, and here it is 3 years later. So Gavin Newsom, governor of California, got 160,000 homeless people on the streets, and he's going to say that, well, we got, 40-something thousand housed. So that is an accomplishment, right? Give credit where credit is due. Out of 200,000 homeless folks, he's taking care of 40%. What is that? I don't know. Here's Gavin Newsom. Go ahead, Gavin. You tell him.
The question will be asked by Hannah Holzer.
Hi, Governor Newsom. Thank you for your time. Governor, homelessness is getting worse in California and not better. You've established missions and millions have been committed to the problem, and yet it gets worse. Where is it breaking down? What needs to be done that isn't being done? And given that many of those on the streets have been previously incarcerated and struggle with mental health and substance abuse challenges, are they now beyond our help?
But we also got 42,000 people off the streets last year.
Don't forget that. There's 42,000, so that means 20%, right? He took care of 20% of the 1 out of 5 homeless got into a home. So that's not too bad. 1 out of 5 that don't fix the problem, you need 3 out of 5.
We did it through a novel program, first in the nation, called Project Room Key. It inspired a lot of local actions as well. It also inspired the administration, both the Trump administration through FEMA, but also the Biden administration, to provide more ongoing support. And it also created something called Project Home Key. Home Key allowed us to procure 6,000+ housing units in less than 6 months. And I'll repeat that because it's unprecedented in California history. We were able, through Home Key, to draw down and put into escrow between July and the end of December 6,000 motels and hotels, which are now part of a permanent portfolio of housing for the formerly homeless, including those you referenced that are going through reentry programs in this state. It's a game changer. We moved away from the old paradigm of affordable housing being a 4 to 5, 6, 7 year process, $400,000, $500,000, $700,000, $800,000 per unit, and all the NIMBYism and stress and struggle, and came up with the new paradigm. We were able to do that with less than $1 billion of federal money last year. This year we put $5.8 billion to replicate the Home Key model. We expanded the flexibility so we can move beyond just hotels and motels to do it, but with the mindset of deliberation. When I got here, there was no homeless plan, no homeless strategy, no intentionality with respect to the previous administration. And with respect, there was a modest contribution that was really driven by the big city mayors near the end of Governor Brown's term to provide $500 million of local supports, no strings attached. That HEAP model, which it evolved into, we doubled down on with an historic amount of money, $950 million. This year, we committed to a multi-year strategy, $12 billion, unprecedented in American history, not just in California history. A plan, money, and political will. That $12 billion includes $5.8 billion for Home Key. It also includes CEQA waivers for siting these properties and creating opportunities so we can address NIMBYism. It has an accountability component to the $2 billion additional dollars that were provided to cities and counties, where if they don't have a plan, they don't get the money. And if they have a plan and meet their performance measures, they get up to 18% bonuses. That's never happened in California history. And I know it may seem easy, just negotiating an incentive package, that alone could have consumed a month or two of energy and effort. Because as former mayor, no one wanted necessarily, they may have said they wanted the accountability package. I can assure you the details of that were difficult, but we're proud of that. So more accountability, more transparency, a requirement for plans at CACs, not just cities and counties. Real strategy with Home Key and Room Key, and here's the best for last. We also are doing something that the former occupant of this building is very much responsible for, the initiation not to exaggerate, because he wasn't exclusively responsible, but in that budget in 1967, where Ronald Reagan inherited a major deficit, he very infamously had his finance department make massive mental health cuts, which he later denied much knowledge of, curious as that may sound. That began the process of this devolvement to the cities and counties that never manifested of our mental health system. The biggest investment in mental health housing in California history we're doing this year. Roughly $3 billion for board and care homes. Laura's Law placements. We've expanded Laura's Law from opt-in to opt-out. More conservatorships. Expanded the power and authority under conservatorship.
Take a break and let's listen to some Kevin Paffrath.
It's our dairy farmers are feeling it. Our farmers are feeling it. Fresno, we're seeing water get pumped out of Fresno to SoCal, bleeding our farms dry in Fresno. People are like, we got to protect our agricultural resources. Well, how about we look at all the dry farms that we have? Because we don't have enough water. Yet, we could easily build an aqueduct from Los Angeles to Boston. For $5.2 billion, we can do that, which is 1/20th the cost of the high-speed rail. We could have an aqueduct that would supply clean and cheap water from any states between here and the other side of the country. And we can end our water crisis in the state. We need a common-sense governor who stops wasting money on things that don't actually solve problems.
Tell me.
I don't hate that aqueduct idea.
Leaderships since I've been governor as well. And as you know, I took the entire state of the state, seems like 10 years ago, was last year, to the issue of looking at the issue of homelessness in all of its forms and manifestations. Not just streets, but families, not just issues related to cost of living, but health, not just physical health, but mental health, and a real comprehensive strategy.
Tell me about your plan.
Yeah, so first thing we've got to do is no more homeless living on our streets within 60 days. The way we're going to do that is we are going to build 80 emergency facilities throughout the state. So they're accessible facilities everywhere. And these emergency facilities, think of them like high schools, able to hold 2,000 individuals each. We might take over abandoned malls or commercial buildings because there are plenty of them after COVID. And so what we're going to do in these is we're going to centralize support for homeless folks. That's education, mental health services, substance abuse services. We have a mental health crisis in this state. It's unaffordable. It's impossible to get mental health support. Wait times are ridiculous. To solve that. So not only are we going to build these facilities, but we're going to provide services to homeless on the streets now so we can transition them after 60 days to our emergency facilities. After 60 days, nobody lives on our streets anymore. So after 60 days, no one's sleeping and trying to live on our streets because people are dying on the streets. That means we get tourism back. That means we get safety and security back. That means we also have less services and less money being wasted on services like EMS, police, fire. We've got a lot of money. We've got a revolving door of homeless going through our emergency facilities.
Strategy. I am just winding up. I'm really looking forward to the application implementation and a $1.1 billion budget on top of that to clean up the damn streets and to deal with these encampments. And I've been personally doing that dozens of times, not just with all your fancy reporters, Sophia, God bless, but with folks when the cameras aren't there. I've been out there cleaning the damn streets from Fresno, Tad, to down there in Stockton and every part of this state. And I'm proud of that. And it's not just to show up. I mean business. And that's to change the attitude to Caltrans, and I'm holding these damn mayors. I think we've been a little easy. I love them all. They're my friends. But we need a little more accountability in terms of what's going on in the damn streets. And there's a specific encampment strategy that we also budgeted, and I'm looking forward to implementing into the future. If I'm privileged. That's another thing. That doesn't happen. We'll have someone demagogue the issue for a year and a half until the next election.
Thank you, Governor. I'll go back to my colleague, Yusuf Bey.
Governor, I want to go back to climate change a little bit.
Through, well, the existing emergency systems, they cost a lot of money. I go to the emergency room, taxpayers end up footing the bill for that, and it's very, very expensive. So we've got to fix homelessness on our streets. The next thing we got to do is we got to minimize people becoming homeless. And so in my opinion, we do that with something I call future schools. Future schools are new schools that we're going to create where 16-year-olds have the opportunity to opt into a future school. They'll still have the option to get accredited so they could still go to a UC or Cal State if they want to. But a future school will teach financial education, a high school education, a college education, and a vocational education all in one in 2 years. So that way folks at 16 can choose. Well, I want to become an electrical engineer, a nurse, a computer programmer, whatever. They're going to graduate at 18, debt-free, for free, and with a career. The beautiful thing about that, because we need a leader who's going to work with businesses, nonprofits, agencies, everything in the state, to find out what kind of students do we need to supply to the sectors that we need. The beautiful thing about that is when we actually educate our population on skills and careers that we need, businesses want to stay here because we actually are supplying them people who have the skills. But what also happens then is we spend less money on programs like welfare, food stamps, and Medi-Cal. 1/3 of Californians are on Medi-Cal. It's not their fault. It's not the single mom's fault who has 2 children who's trying to work minimum wage jobs just to try to get ahead and feed her children when she wasn't properly educated when she graduated high school at 18 and couldn't get a job. It's not their fault. It's our educational system's fault. And so I believe that starts with the governor's office. So homelessness has to get fixed. Schooling has to get fixed. One way we can also solve schooling for folks who are in our prisons, our homeless, and our adult populations